Contrary to popular belief, love does not have an objective definition. I repeat, contrary to popular belief, love does not have an objective definition. No, I'm just playing. Okay, so I'm not playing about the idea. I am playing about how silly I'm being right now in the moment. So here's the deal. I had a conversation with a friend yesterday, and it reminded me today while I was driving to my gig, I was reminded by my own mind that I forgot to elaborate on my thought that I put up on Facebook not too long ago. Now, I'm not going to remember it verbatim, line for line, but basically the idea starts off with the thought that I just said, which is that love, contrary to popular belief, love does not have an objective definition. The reason why is because love is used in many ways. Is used as a noun, a verb, an adjective, and it is subjective by its very nature because it's a concept that's based on where we are as individuals at any given time in history. It's based on our present morals, principles, values, beliefs, preferences, definitions of even other words and other concepts and other aspects of life. Is based on the fluidity of all those things and how they change over time as we evolve, as we grow, as we learn, and as we adopt new ideas, new preferences, new definitions. But it's a concept that most of the time we're speaking in objective terms, whether it's due to our religious beliefs or our spiritual beliefs, the traditions of our culture, our community, or just solely our own personal responsibilities and that particular world that we live in is something that's always changing over time because it's a product and a concept within evolution itself. So in a conversation with my friend, and if you haven't already been able to tell by the tone of my voice right now, this is yet another episode of Short Story Long. Short Story Long. I will say that it's 6:18 and I'm going to try to cut it off at 6:30 because I actually have to make a few calls before I get to my gig. But I couldn't let it get away. I couldn't let the moment get away without elaborating on this. So I'm having a conversation with my friend and, we're chopping it up about some really good things. And at some point, he mentioned that, one of the issues is that many people claim that they are loving or that they, are expressing love when they really are not. By definition, they are not expressing love in his, opinion, of course. But I understood the statement to be an objective statement because it's what we all do. We all take our belief about love, I would even say our convictions. That's an even better word to use. We take our convictions, we take our deeply held beliefs, we take our teachings, we take our philosophical or spiritual or religious systems, and whatever definition of love that comes up via any of those circumstances, that is our definition of love, and we hold it dear. And we should. But the thing is, we don't realize that that also makes us project an objective definition of love. So in this conversation, I could agree, when he pointed out a particular person and he told me about their actions and how it wasn't demonstrating love, and how, many people do that. And I could agree with him that the actions he was talking about, I wouldn't identify as love either. But once again, I'm agreeing with it from the perspective of knowing that this isn't because what we're saying is ultimately true, that this person isn't expressing love, and that our definition of it is the true definition of love. It's because love is agreed upon through race consciousness by groups of people, whether it's cultures, communities, affiliation with philosophies or traditions. That's how we agree upon. But those things change as you cross other lines in life, as you cross other cultural lines, as you get into other territory, other people in the world. Those things change. We spend most of our time, though, pointing a finger at each other, saying that, each other doesn't have the definition, doesn't really know what love is, or is not really loving. When the truth of the matter is, love is just it's a subjective concept. It doesn't downplay it. It doesn't downgrade it. And that's what I was explaining in this conversation, with my buddy. I was like, it doesn't. Okay, we're looking at him as not being loving, but let's talk about this in a little bit of a different way. We can't say that's not what love is, because as I pointed out to him, I'm like, if you take people who are vegan, and I was like, they could very well look at us, and I'm a person who even, has more of a vegan foundation as far as his diet. My goal is to be 100% vegan. I'm just not there now. But they could look at us and despite that say we are not loving people, despite the fact that we're out here trying to spread love to other people, that we are trying the best that we can to, show kindness and just all the things that they would even agree were loving actions too. But it just may be that in their particular take on life, one of the deepest forms of love is to not eat animals. And so in their definition of love, us eating animals can be seen as people who don't really understand the definition of love, and who are expressing love in some ways, but ultimately are not loving. And he agreed. He understood what I was saying. I'm like, and that proves the point there. We talk about love in our different convictions and in our different philosophies like there is an objective definition of love, when the truth of the matter is, love, we're talking about it in the wrong way. It's a subjective concept that we use to express nouns. We use it in the form of a noun, verb, and adjective. We use it to express many things. And it has benefits to it. Some of our quote-unquote loving actions, though, are not beneficial. And again, we aren't open to that a lot of times because we have defined them as love, and because other people around us in our church, in our community, in our homes, in our friend circle agree to it. So then we think that this is actually love. It's funny because as I even speak about this, I realize that it can sound like on the other side, or through in another way, it can sound like I'm really it could sound like I'm just saying, so there's no reason to even have any definitions of love, or actions don't matter. It means you could do whatever you want and it doesn't matter. Like, but for anybody who may be going in that direction, that's totally not what I'm saying. And don't let my tone, or my conviction even with this thought come across in that way, because that's not really what I mean. It's something that, like I was telling my buddy, the ways that we're acting it out, many ways, like, it's great. It's great. And even to say, like, this is love, this is a loving action, it's great. The only thing, I feel like I was telling another friend of mine a while back that with the way that I've been growing and learning in life, I feel like I'm like a part of the logic police. Like, where I identify with so many other deep things that everybody else identifies with, or people around me identify with. But I see, like, the small places where, in the midst of our beneficial thoughts, we're either deluding ourselves or we're making a mistake, like here, in how we're thinking about it. And I feel like it's something I see, and I enjoy being able to ponder on those things. And now I'm enjoying talking about those things, because ultimately I feel like they're helpful. So it could seem a bit like on the debating side, but it's not really. It's more so like if you're on a sports team and they're winning and they're killing it, but you see they got one little small thing that may prevent them from, like, going all the way, that they don't see in the midst of their greatness. That's kind of how I feel. So, anywho, sorry to digress so far. The point I'm making is that I'm not having this conversation to say there's no reason for any definitions of love, or it doesn't matter what you do. It's just that I realize we talk about love in an objective way due to our convictions, as opposed to realizing that it's totally a subjective concept, and there is no real meaning of love. There's just where society is at that point in history, and where groups of people are at that point in history in their definitions of love. I told my buddy, if 100 years from now, people, if most of the world happens to be vegan, then you and I will be seen just like the person you're pointing out, like with no shot of being loving. Like, they'd be like, yeah, them people had no idea what love is. Look at how much better our world is now that we're all vegan. But then if you fast forward 100 years from there, then those people will be looking at the people 100 years in front of them will be looking back saying, those people weren't loving. And it'll be because of some other new thing that love is now seen as. It'll be because the people, as we continue to grow. And here's another thing I want to mention too. I got 2 more minutes. So for those that are like, oh my gosh, he is rambling, I got 2 more minutes and I'm cutting myself off. Here we go. Throughout our time in evolution, what happens is at every step of at every step of the way, we grow and we learn. So that takes our understanding deeper of each other. Veganism is a result of having deeper understanding of science and being able to relate to, say, an animal's feelings more, to where then it naturally provokes feelings of empathy within us, because the more you know, the more you can empathize. I really feel like the solution to many of the problems in the world where we need is really a lack of empathy. But empathy comes by education and exposure. If you can understand what another person or species is like really, really going through, like on a magnified level, if you come across something in that experience that mirrors your own, then there's a point of connectivity. And that opens up the doors of empathy because you can understand. So you know what it feels like. So you naturally empathize. So veganism or our new expanded definitions of love come from our deeper understandings of our world and how that has created deeper empathy towards each other and towards animals and towards our earth and all these things. And so with that, then as we continue to do that, and we've done that from the beginning of history, it's just always a new stage. When we get to that point, then those new things that we empathize with, we start classifying in our definitions of love, like what it means to be mindful of those things. Now that we can empathize with animals on a deeper level, then now we have veganism coming about even at a deeper way, and now we have that definition or that particular mindfulness now being included in positive, affirming feelings that we're doing in that case toward another species. Now that's tucked under love, and it will continue to be that way. At some point, let me see. We might, I don't know, like there's always a new level to it. We might empathize with another species or our planets in a different way in the future, and again, it'll just keep on evolving. So just know that, my friends, love is not, and love has no objective definition. Love is a mutable thing that actually is really another word for evolution. The more we know, the more we act differently, we care in a different way. Last but not least, and I know I've gone 60 seconds over my time, but last but not least, somebody might be like, well, what's the reason for rambling on about this period? Like, what's the point? The reason why I'm rambling on about it is because if we understand that our definitions of love are not the definitions of love, then it'll help us to be less judgmental about other people and where they are on the spectrum. It doesn't mean it's going to soften us up. That's the misconception. And I just did a live stream about that the other day. It does not mean it's going to soften us up. What it means is we'll be more aware. So in the places where we need to empathize, where we need to be more understanding, we can be. And in the places where we don't need to be understanding, we need to shut that shit down, we'll do that. And then it pours into another sea of subjectivity, because of course we're the ones deciding those rules. But be it what it may, it still is a thing that is the direction that we're going in, and it's important to understand it, because then it'll give us less stress and it'll help us to work with each other in a much better way. Short story long. Drop a line, let me know what you think. And let's have fun with this topic, if you will. Peace.